So this one is for, I was walking through the Eastern Market, which is one of my favorite places in the city. I ran into an old man whose name was Sam, and he was 73 years old at the time. And he and I sat and walked down to the DeQuinder Cut talking about John Lee Hooker. And he saw John Lee Hooker in the old days. And so I celebrate this poem and celebrate Sam inside it. They make reference to John Lee Hooker's Boogie Chillin', which were the beautiful black people that lived on Hastings Street, long gone now. And John Lee wrote a song called The Boogie Chillin' to them, and so this is what this poem is about. John Lee Hooker's Boogie Chillin'. Beneath the DeQuinder Cut, full of greased weeds and graffiti, you can see the exact spot where roaming dogs shit. And lovers, because their expressions of musical notes and lust, kiss like lovers kiss, one after another in the front seat of an old Pontiac, here in the penguin filth of the Eastern Market, where the slaughterhouses and the lambskin factories, stinking with dead animal carcasses on salt, combine on Orleans and Monroe Street so that John Lee can arrive with a bruised guitar in a box, the devil skulking behind him sometime in 1943. And he can squat in a shack, gone now, long gone in the years that act like razor blades cutting every shack to bits, except for Sam, the guy I talk to who tells me in busted apart English because he's from the deep South and he's 73 years old, and his back teeth, the ones that can grab hard on tobacco and on hard to say words, are old chunks of dead weight. He can tell me that he still lives in the dusty wooden shack, just off of St. Aubin, where there's a view of the slaughterhouse and John Lee's place, even though it's long gone now. And even though the woman he slept with in the old 47 Pontiac is nothing now except the particulate of dandelions and black ink. Where it is written that the boogie chillin' swing on Hastings Street, John Lee, dark as coal burning in an oven, can sing it. And you can feel it as heat rising up a fence line, weeds crowding it, and you can see it as flame bursting out of a rigid chimney stack. And all of the young festooned girls, portable young things ready to submit to the anything that guides them like rolling black stars skipping across the sidewalks of Russell Street in Beaubien and then on to Henry's Swing Club on Orleans. You can see them now as the gnarled trees and weeds under the DeQuinder Cut. And some graffiti artist down there, a quick-moving pulsar of light, is spray painting the future because it was always hungry to get here. And you can go down there amidst the blown tires and the mattresses and the old car chassis and find the boogie chillin', their throats parched and thirsty from the hot weight of the night, their roots sucking oil. Ladies and gentlemen of the cornucopias of littered trash, of forgotten auto hulks never mentioned, of slaughtered animals glazed in blood, of the wantonness of soiled floors where knife blades divide ribs, I want to tell you of the boogie chillin', John Lee's kin, yours and mine, because they are the ones born in music and the ones lost in light. And they are the ones whose voices go on singing in the low wind that's wandering like a melody under the Alfred Street Bridge, where Sam is walking this morning, his mouth full of chewing tobacco and blues. And I am walking there with him, one of the free ones, never a part of the 1943 riots that slaughtered this town like a lamb's neck. And we're getting high on the light that slanted like a guitar string through the wreckage of a viaduct, he and I, and we're not alone. We're never, never alone. He shouts out at no one, we're never alone. Our roots and toots live inside the ashes and underneath the weeds. And he throws his arms up in arrivals and in cataclysmic gestures and in soiled, lathered sweat. We're never alone, he shouts out to no one. Never alone. So I'm going to read through our poems. This one is called He Helps Me Count What's Left Behind, which is actually taken from the great Detroit poet Lawrence Joseph, one of his poems. And it celebrates a taxi cab ride I had with a gentleman. I was looking for the last Hastings Street sign, for those of you who know what Hastings Street is. It's the famous street that was the Afro-American Commerce District of Detroit, which was ingloriously ripped apart for the I-375 freeway, which is the least used freeway in the city now. So their whole Commerce District was torn apart, and the big street was Hastings Street. For what it's worth, my father was a jazz musician who went on to play with Les Brown's band of renown on Sentimental Journey. And he used to tell me about playing with the black men, the black people, the black jazz folks on Hastings Street. So it was my business to go find that sign, and I didn't really know where it was. And so this poem celebrates a taxi ride I had to the last Hastings Street sign, which is now gone. Somebody took it. Like everything else, it's gone. He helps me count what's left behind. I see him in his green taxi cab. He's idling there on Paquette, a black man high on weed, although he's driving people back to their homes from shopping for shoes and hair products in the stores still left at Woodward and Grand Boulevard. I ask him to tell me where the old Hastings Street sign is, which was the main line of Old Black Bottom in Detroit, where the jazz clubs were, and where John Lee Hooker lived. We're just a stone's throw from the old Fisher Plant 21, where countless General Motors car bodies were built by men toiling in the summertime heat. And so I climb into his cab, and we slowly crawl past the white abandoned plant. He turns, and on an unnamed street littered with tires, trash, and old liquor bottles, he tells me, this is Hastings Street. Then we drive down Paquette until we get to Russell, and then we get to Milwaukee, and we drive through dirty puddles till we get up to a corner. And up above us is the only existing street sign that is still standing. It's Hastings Street at Milwaukee. And we stand outside of it, a white and black man, talking about the clubs of Black Bottom, talking about our different lives. Nothing else is near us. The sky above is spotted with gray mist. The street is full of dirty puddles. He tells me he's selling weed cheaply if I want to buy some. And that he did time in the pen in 1971 for selling dope. He got into it after the riots when he was just 15 and heard the gunshots. Then he got out in 76, came back to these east side streets where the clubs collapsed in dust under the new highway, kept on sizzling the booze under the hiss and fire of car tires, and so he drives a taxi cab. I tell him my father played jazz here in the clubs back in the 30s. He tells me his mother used to hang out at the clubs, especially the Royal Blue Club on Russell. Man, they tore that one down a long time ago, he says, and that his auntie was one of those shake dancers that strutted and shook her booty in between sets. And then he says, you know what I'm talking about. She was an exotic dancer. And I grab his hand, and for no explainable reason, I hug him. And he hugs me back, as if we were old friends. Long-lost brothers in arms or refugees of this sad city, counting all that's left behind.